Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Money Dates. Now, sometimes I get a good feeling. And so today I wanted to talk to you about how do you break up with your debts? Now, not all debts created equal, not all debts are bad, but let's have a discussion about what plans should you put together for yourself to get on a path of not having debt if that's your goal, or managing your debts properly if that's your goal. So it's not one size fits all. Hi Lisa, good to have you here. Good to have you here, awesome. But until we get to the actual topic of our discussion, let's focus on what Money Date is all about. Hi Wanda, good to have you here. You guys are awesome, thank you for hopping on. Say something in the chat, that way I know you're here. So the idea of Money Dates is that I come on and send you a friendly reminder to remember to check in with yourself about your finances. So how has been your week? Not just a general question, how, a very specific approach. How much money did you make? Lisa, I know you've been booking some photo sessions left and right, so you are doing really awesome. So total up your numbers. So how much income did you make? What has been your spending for the week? And how are you tracking on the savings goals? Those are the three things that Money Date was designed to keep reminding me, because I am not any different than you are. I have the same kind of finances, but also what I do is I help other people get on the path of having clarity with theirs. So I've got to have a system. Every week, I've got to find a time to check in with my own finances. This is where Money Dating comes in handy. So this is your friendly reminder. Get to know your income, get to know your expenses. It is really easy if you put systems in place to get yourself reminders like that. Now, on to the actual topic about debts. There's endless conversations that we can have about what do you actually do and how do you have a plan for handling your debts. Now, I am not anti-debt at all, but you've got to have a strategy. You've got to use debt in proper sources. And so I want to get into talking about a couple of ways that you can actually strategize and see if you can put in place in getting you on a path of eliminating the debt if that's your goal, or using it properly, okay? Now, you guys know that I love to connect and share with you my money wins for the week. And so this week has been kind of crazy. A lot has going on that I'm about to share with you. Stay tuned on that. But as far as my money win for the week, so ladies, those of you who are watching live, and then if you're coming back and replay, I appreciate you hopping on. Tell me what your money win for the week has been. A money win is a positive moment that you recognized and gave yourself a credit for. Okay, so remove all that negativity, all the stress, all the busyness, this is one of those things that every time somebody asks me how I'm doing, or when you meet somebody and one of the common things is you hear people say, or I'm busy. Well, what does that mean? When you say you're busy, it doesn't reflect on how you actually are doing. So all that busyness aside, think about what you are most appreciative for, and give yourself just a tiny moment to appreciate that. So my money win for the week is, I'm very excited because usually in the fall I start back up. This is year 3 for me, which is awesome. I'm part of a conference organizing committee for one of the biggest conferences that's held in my industry here in San Francisco Bay Area. It's actually right in San Francisco. It usually takes place over the Memorial Day weekend. And so yes, conference is next May, end of May, and we're just starting out. So last week I had our first meeting with my committee. There's 25 volunteers on a committee. It's a pretty big conference, over 750 people attending. A lot of planning goes on for the next 9 months until we actually have a conference. But aside from being a volunteer, I get to meet like-minded people. I get to hang out with awesome speakers and leaders in my industry. But it's also rewarding in a way, and then I get to attend the conference and host my speakers. My role is called Speakers Liaison. But aside from that, it's just one of those moments where I feel like, all right, I'm giving back to my community. Hi, Natalie, good to have you. So I am particularly excited for that. I get to go and hang out in the beautiful Palace Hotel in San Francisco once a month. I don't mind that, and so, but it's all volunteer. So there's times when you come to a point in your life that giving back is something that you find rewarding and you find useful in your life. So that's my money win. Ladies, let me know, and gentlemen, let me know what you've done awesome for yourself over the last 7 days. Now, onto the topic that I'm discussing with you today. So let's say you found yourself having an extra cash, right, or disposable income available in your budget. And you're kind of weighing in the question is, do I pay this debt off? Or do I keep it and do something else with my cash? This is a question I get all the time from my clients. It doesn't go away. It's like one of those timeless questions that you can keep on answering. So I wanted to kind of ponder some thoughts with you about what debts, why do you need to maybe in certain cases keep your debts and do something else with your cash, and in some of the, or if you're one of those clients that I, have from time to time who just does not sleep well at night when there's debt hanging over their head, then, perhaps we have a strategy for you. So a couple of thoughts here. So number one is I really want you to understand the difference between what I call is good debt versus bad debt. Okay, so when you look at your balance sheet and you sort of lay out all the loans, credit cards, you have all of the debts. Make a list of them, and draw a line on a piece of paper and say good debt, bad debt, and start listing. Out of all those debts that you might have, which one falls into which category. So I'll give you a few examples. And how I think of those, right, even before I make a list. So a good debt, right, is a debt that you use. It's very simple. It's the debt that you use to improve your life. It's the debt you use, right, and you can hold me accountable to these words, but I'll clarify further. It's the debt that you use to create income. It's the debt that you use to improve your conditions. So when you look at a mortgage versus a credit card, a personal loan versus an auto loan, right? So here are some of the examples. So is using your credit card considered a good debt or bad debt? So I think you can answer that. Student loans, good question, Lisa. So student loans are going to be considered good debt, right? Because you're using, even though and you kind of hitting on a very sensitive topic that I have planned to discuss in the next couple of money dates. Even though student loans are one of the biggest issues that we have for young adults graduating from college and other graduate schools and whatnot, it is still considered a good debt because it helps you improve your conditions. It helps you get the opportunity and skills and knowledge to earn more income. Yes, you have to pay it back, and there are different ways how you can do that. So now, in understanding, yeah, even older adults, anybody can acquire student loans to improve their overall well-being. So if we had to make a list, good debts versus bad debts, and you found yourself that the category of your bad debts is the one that's weighing over more, then that's the one that you need to focus on the most, okay? Now, that's just as far as the priorities go. So mortgage will fall into a category of a good debt. Student loans will fall into the category of good debt. Everything else, my friends, is really going to be selective, but I would push it into the category of bad debts because you can argue with me about car loans. Car is not an asset that increases in value. So how can you have a debt on the car and think that it's a good debt? Yes, I know you need a car. You need to get from place A to place B, but it does not qualify for being in the category of good debts. So business loans, some of you are business owners, right? So think about that. If you use debt, hi Dave, good to have you here. If you use debt to expand and create more growth in your business, I think you can understand right away, you can see the pattern that that is considered to be good debt. So, my friends, we identified which debts we're going to focus on first. Now, the next step for us is to think about, when we made a list, the next step is to think about, what kind of, look at the balances and do a little inventory. Look at what kind of rates you actually are paying. So if we're focusing on getting rid of the credit card balances as fast as possible, maybe personal loans, student loans is a kind of separate discussion, but if that's something you can easily manage and pay, which most people can't do, then sort of put it aside in a category of where you're going to be paying that for a while, just like your mortgage, and you will focus more on your bad debt. So what are your interest rates? So many people don't understand and even check. Pull your statement out and see what kind of interest rate you're paying, whether it's your personal loan, whether it's your auto loan, whether it's your credit card, right? Interest rates, my friends, have changed. They have increased. If you had variable rates on some of these debts, most likely you're gonna see some kind of changes. I actually had an email from a client earlier this afternoon. She has a home equity line of credit that has a variable rate. And so guess what happened? She is panicking because the rates have gone up and she's now seeing an increase in her monthly payments, and that is putting a strain on her budget. So those are the kinds of things you need to understand, because I know that you are a good listener and follow the advice that I've been giving you for some time, and you know what your budget is like. So you can actually have a feel whether increased interest rates or extra payments. Where I'm getting with this, by understanding your balances and the rates that you have, is to make a list and create something called a snowball, so that you can say, all right, my most expensive debt, I'm gonna focus on paying first. And so out of my discretionary money, right, because I know how much I make, I know how much I spend, and I know how much is left over, I'm gonna dedicate that towards paying that debt off. Now, that's the first simple thing, right? If you happen to have a side hustle kind of jobs on the side and you can create extra income to eliminate that debt aside from what comes out of your normal spending that you do day to day, month to month, that's fantastic. I'm all for that. But if you don't and you need to work with just slowly, right, paying that debt off, that's your best choice. Now, something else to think about is when you assessing, right, how much to pay on, when you're looking at the more expensive debt, right, like the one that costs you more in interest rates. Hi, Jennifer, good to have you here. Thanks for watching. When you're looking at that versus, for example, having a smaller debt, right? So sometimes I have these conversations with clients is, all right, which ones do I pay off first? Do I work on paying my the ones that are costing me more, or I have this one that has a lower balance? Whatever feels right to you is fine with me, as long as you have an approach, a strategy to get that going. All right, so we've looked at what debts we have. We understand what kind of interest rate we pay. We understand what our terms are and what our monthly payments are. We now have an idea that perhaps we can pay a little bit more. Now, something else to bring is, out of the debts that you have, right? And most of the times, consumer debts are the ones that are, it's possible, but the question or the thought I have is it possible for you to refinance your debts? So if you have, hi Sveta, good to have you here. So if you have, let's say, an auto loan that's costing you quite a bit of money, is it possible for you to refinance that auto loan so that you reduce your payments, therefore you're gonna pay less in interest? So my question to you is, can we snowball it, create an additional stream of payments to pay that off, that debt off faster? And can we also see if refinancing is an option? Now, if we're looking in this, so we have two categories, the good debt and the bad debt. If we're looking in the category of good debt, we probably have a mortgage, if we have student loans, refinancing, and those debts tend to be larger, right? So they're more difficult to pay off faster, right? They're still possible. There are plenty of people who make extra payments on their mortgages, extra payments on their student loans, because they have a timeline that they're trying to hit and they want to get rid of those debts. So if we're looking in this category of good debts, so maybe perhaps you have a business loan, could you refinance those debts? They're the ones that would probably be more subject of those kinds of things, right? And so if those are the options and you can refinance, go for that first, right? Because once you've gotten yourself onto a path of paying less in interest, because all of that does is that allows you to have an extra money, extra disposable funds that you can devote to paying that debt off. So the whole idea that I wanted to discuss with you in terms of breaking up with debts, I kind of like, it's a cute phrase, but the idea is that, you know, it's not all bad when you have income coming in. And that's why, this is one of the reasons, right? You guys may not notice this every time I bring this up, and it may seem like I sound like a broken clock, right? So every week, I gotta remind you to know how much income you make, right? And what your expenses are. But it all comes down to understanding what the bottom line is, because you could use debt. As I talked about, improving the conditions of your life. Hi, Jeff. Good to have you. And Ben. Hi, guys. I started a little earlier, thanks for catching on. I hope you're doing well. So the idea here is that understand what your situation is, and having a strong power over what your income, right, earning abilities are, is going to allow you to use debt. That's the goal, right? I want you to be able to use it when it's needed, right? But when you turn to debt for consumption, right, and using it for pleasure, right, where in turn you didn't need to do that, that's a whole other strategy. And so if we're talking here about making smart financial decisions, I want you to weigh in on that. That's all I've got, my friends, for you tonight. So do a little inventory of, where do you stand? The other kind of a last sort of thought I have on this, a lot of you do use credit cards. I am a big user of credit cards because I like points. I like miles. Yuri and I collect a lot of those, and we travel, right? Whatever your reward system is. So give yourself a strategy. If that's the goal, then make sure that you can actually, pay off that debt, right? So don't go for what the reward is, whether it's points or rewards or whatever, miles or cash back, because that's going to get you the rewards. But think about what your strategy is and what your plan. If you have to be on no credit cards or no kind of debt for some time and using cash to pay for your expenses, that's what you need to do. And so one of the quotes that I love to close with is that not all debt is created equal, but how you use it is what makes your plan a successful plan. So with that in mind, I'm going to close for tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and let me know if you have other strategies where you found using debt was beneficial and useful to your financial plan. Catch you next week. Bye for now.